The Tales series, known in Japan as the Tales of series, is a franchise of fantasy Japanese role-playing video games published by Bandai Namco Games, and developed by its subsidiary, Namco Tales Studio until 2011 and presently by Bandai Namco. First begun in 1995 with the development and release of Tales of Phantasia for the Super Famicom, the series currently spans 15 main titles, multiple spin-off games and supplementary media in the form of mangas, anime series and audio dramas. 9 out of the 14 entries in the main series have been localized for North America and Europe, although almost all of the spin-off titles have not been released abroad. While seen as a niche series in English-speaking regions, the series is considered very high-profile in Japan, just behind other series such as Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. The series has been gaining popularity in the West since the release of Tales of Symphonia, which is still considered one of the most popular titles in the series. As of December 2013, the series has sold 16 million units worldwide. Titles. Games. Since the first installment was released in 1995, the Tales series has grown to include the main entries and multiple spin-offs that derive multiple gameplay and narrative elements from the main entries. Except when indicated by naming, the main Tales entries are separate from each other apart from gameplay mechanics and themes. While Tales titles are often ported to new consoles, these remakes are rarely released in the West. The 2007 Nintendo DS game Tales of the Tempest was originally seen as a main entry in the series, but in 2007 was classified as a spin-off. Main series. The series debuted on the Super Famicom with Tales of Phantasia in 1995, and introduced multiple elements that would become staples of the Tales series. It was released in the West on the Game Boy Advance in 2006. It was also ported to the PlayStation, PlayStation Portable and iOS. The PlayStation received 2 original Tales games, Tales of Destiny in 1997, which was the first title to be released in North America, and Tales of Eternia in 2000, which was released in 2001 as Tales of Destiny 2 in North America. 5 titles have been released on the PlayStation 2. The true sequel to Destiny, Tales of Destiny 2, was released on the PlayStation 2 in 2001 across Asian territories, and ported to the PlayStation Portable in Japan in 2007. Both versions have yet to receive a Western release. Tales of Symphonia was released in Japan on the PS2 and Nintendo GameCube, with only the GameCube version being localized for North America and Europe, marking the Tales series first released in European territories. It was the first entry in the Tales series to feature 3D graphics for its characters and environments. Tales of Rebirth was released in 2004, ported to the PlayStation Portable in 2008, and is yet to receive a localization. Tales of Legendia and Tales of the Abyss were both released in Japan in 2005, with both being released in North America the following year. Abyss was later ported to the Nintendo 3DS, and released in Japan, North America and Europe. Tales of Innocence was released in Japan on the Nintendo DS in 2007. A remake of the game, Innocence was released on the PlayStation Vita in 2012. Neither version has been released in the West. The first release on 7th-generation consoles, Tales of Vesperia for Xbox 360, was released in Japan and North America in 2008 and in Europe in 2009. A Japan-exclusive PlayStation 3 port was released in the same year as the European release. Tales of Hearts was released on the Nintendo DS in 2008. A remake, Hearts R, was released in 2013 in Japan and 2014 in North America and Europe. The 12th entry, Tales of Graces, released on the Wii in Japan in 2009. A PlayStation 3 port, Graces F, was released in 2009 in Japan, and in 2012 in North America and Europe. Tales of Xillia, the series' 15th anniversary title, was released in Japan for PlayStation 3 in 2011, and in North America and Europe in 2013. Xillia's direct sequel and the 14th main title, Tales of Xillia 2, was released in 2012 in Japan and 2014 in North America and Europe. The 15th entry in the series, Tales of Zestiria, is in production and scheduled for a worldwide 2015 release to commemorate the series' 20th anniversary. Sequels and spin-offs. The series has received a small number of sequels and a large amount of spin-off titles and subseries. With the exception of Tempest, worked on by multiple staff from the main series, they have all been derivative rather than original works. 3 direct sequels have been produced: Destiny 2, Xillia 2 and the spin-off title Tales of Symphonia, Dawn of the New World. Eternia received an MMORPG spin-off for PC platforms titled Tales of Eternia Online. Multiple crossover games have been made for mobile platforms, including Tales of Link, the Tales of Mobile series, Tales of Card Evolve, Tales of Kaiser and Tales of Asteria. 2 titles for the PlayStation Portable have been released in Japan, Tales of Versus in 2009, and Tales of the Heroes, Twin Brave in 2012. The main spin-off subseries is Tales of the World, which has grown to include 10 games beginning with Tales of Phantasia, Naraki Redungeon, released in Japan on the Game Boy Color in 2000. Only Tales of the World, Radiant Mythology has been released in the West. A second subseries, Tales of Phantom, includes 2 games released respectively for the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 in 2002 and 2007. Related media. The Tales series has expanded into other forms of media, including CD dramas, manga and anime. Multiple Tales games have been adapted into traditional animes, being both OAVs and TV series. The Symphonia OAV was released in 3 parts between 2007 and 2011, and released as a single collection in 2013. Abyss was adapted into a 26-episode TV series between October 2008 and March 2009. Phantasia and Eternia have also received anime adaptations. The first theatrical anime film of the series, Tales of Vesperia, The First Strike, was released on October 3, 2009 and was a prequel to Tales of Vesperia. It was released in 2009 in Japan and 2012 in North America. A made-for-television anime based on the opening of Zestiria is also being produced for release alongside the game. Books and audio dramas have also been made. Phantasia received multiple CD dramas, including 4 collected into anthologies in January and March 2000 and a standalone drama in December 2001. Symphonia received 7 audio dramas following the game's plot. 2 CD dramas for Legendia were respectively released in August and September 2005. A manga of Phantasia was written and serialized in 2008 and 2009, while Abyss received 3 manga adaptations in the years after the game's release. Symphonia was adapted in both novelizations and a manga serial. Others to receive adaptations of these kinds are Destiny, Graces and Xillia. Common elements, gameplay. The Tales series has multiple gameplay elements that carry over from entry to entry. The main unifying element is the combat system, the linear motion battle system. Considered as one of the mainstays and building blocks for every main entry in the series, it undergoes multiple incremental changes and alterations from one installment to the next. Introduced in Phantasia, it is a real-time fighting system similar to a brawler, as opposed to the majority of RPGs at the time which primarily used turn-based battle systems. Some features introduced in certain games have proven popular enough to remain in future installments, an example is free running. Elements of turn-based combat are also present, though to a lesser degree. An example of this is Destiny's chain capacity feature, which appears in later games in the series. The battle system for Legendia was deliberately designed to be similar to a brawler. The stated reason was that the team wished to combine brawler combat with the story and leveling mechanics of a Tales game. Characters generally use art, which are special attacks characters can perform in battle. Players can usually only control one character. Thought a multiplayer option was implemented for Vesperia. The battle system's name for each installment is augmented with descriptive titles representative of features of that game's battle system. Examples are the Style Shift system from Graces and the Fuse Ionic Chain system from Zestiria. Characters are awarded with titles, nicknames which sometimes grant boons to them in battle when assigned to them. Until Zestiria, when navigating the overworld or environment and encountering an enemy, the resultant battle took place on a separate battle screen. For Zestiria, combat took place in the same space as exploration. Most Tales games have skits, side conversations between different characters that can be both dramatic and comedic in nature. They are commonly portrayed as character portraits or profiles, with text along the bottom of the screen. They were first introduced in Tales of Destiny, though the majority were cut from the English release. In the original English GameCube release of Symphonia, the voice track for the skits was removed, but for its HD re-release, the Japanese voice track, and consequently the skit voice tracks, were included. The first English release to include fully voiced skits was Vesperia. They had been planned for Abyss, but were cut due to space issues. Another recurring feature is the cooking system, where characters learn and prepare dishes that restore both health and forms of experience points. Themes and characters. The prominent narrative theme of the Tales series, according to Baba, is the issue of coexistence between different races. The cited example was between humans and animal races. A particular example of this is Tales of Rebirth, which extensively explores themes of racism. Scenario writer Hiramatsu Masaki was inspired by the ethnic conflicts seen in Yugoslavia. Another recurring feature is the plot and characters, which are often rooted in and revolve around themes such as justice or faith. In contrast, the theme for Zestiria was described as passion. The stories and the way the characters interact with each other forms one of the core aspects of designing each game. The theme for each entry in the series is decided by the series producer based on current world events. The chosen theme helps dictate what the game will be called. Once the theme is decided, the team search through various languages to find a suitable representative word. The theme of each entry is depicted through the world and the main character. For Abyss, it was decided to take a risk and create a protagonist that would be initially unlikable. For Vesperia, the team opted to raise the age limit of the target audience, showing this in the game by making the main protagonist a more mature type. A female main protagonist was included for the first time in Xillia in the form of Miller Maxwell alongside male protagonist Jude Mathis, although at the time it was stated that there were no solid plans to create a game with a single female protagonist. Art design. The series has become distinguished by its art style, which emulates manga and anime. Manga artist Kasuke Fujishima was brought in to design the characters for Phantasia, and became a fixture for the series. Another designer, Mitsumi Inomata, first designed for the series with Destiny and has contributed to multiple other entries including Eternia, Legendia and Xillia. A third regular artist is Daigo Okumura, who designed characters for Vesperia and Xillia 2 as well as Dawn of the New World. Other designers to work on the series include Kazuto Nekazawa, Koichi Kimura, and Minoru Iwamoto. The art design for each game's world and characters has ranged between a cel-shaded cartoon style to a more realistic style. Skit character images are also directly inspired by anime art. Anime cutscenes are included in each game, and are a primary focus for the production team as they help make the first impression on players. They also try to avoid standard anime tropes or showing the same kinds of things each time. The first game to feature such cutscenes was Destiny. The cutscenes were animated by Production IG. The company provided cutscenes for the series until Xillia, wanting to demonstrate a new artistic direction of the series. Production of the anime cutscenes was given to Ufotable. Different versions of Hearts used anime and computer-generated cutscenes. Music. The regular main composer for the Tales series is Motoi Sakuraba. His first work on the series was for Phantasia, and has since contributed to nearly every main entry since then in the capacity of a freelance composer. Sakuraba has become noted for his signature musical style, which is present in the majority of his Tales scores. He also frequently collaborates with Shinji Tamura on Tales scores. The entries Sakuraba has not worked on are Legendia, which was composed by Go Shirina, an in-house composer, and Innocence, whose composer was Kazuhiro Nakamura. Sakuraba and Shirina cooperated on the score for Zestiria. Multiple titles in the series use licensed theme songs by multiple Japanese artists, among the artists of Garnet Crow, Kokia and Ami Hamasaki. One recurring aspect of many earlier localizations was the removal of the Japanese theme song, such as with Symphonia, which had its theme song replaced with an orchestral version. The first Western release of a Tales title to feature the theme song used in Japan was Vesperia. Development history. The Tales series originated when Phantasia began production, based on an unpublished novel titled Tale of Phantasia, written by the game's scenario writer and lead programmer Yoshihiro Tanda. During the story development process, several elements of the original novel were dropped or changed. The game was developed by Wolf Team, an independent game development studio founded in 1986. Due to bad experiences at Telenet Japan, the previous employer of multiple Wolf Team members, the staff sought an independent publisher for the game. After an unsuccessful pitch to Enix, they entered a publishing contract with Bandai Namco. Phantasia had a troubled development cycle for the original Super Nintendo version, with many creative disagreements between developer Wolf Team and publisher Namco. The disagreements led to most of the Wolf Team staff leaving after the game in order to start a new company, Tri-Ace, which would go on to make the Star Ocean series. Remaining members would continue to develop games in the Tales series. By 2008, the studio was divided into two teams, Team Destiny, who worked on 2D Tales titles such as Tales of Destiny, and Team Symphonia, which developed Symphonia, Abyss and Vesperia. The team and studio produced the majority of the mainline Tales games until 2011. The notable exceptions are Legendia, which was developed by an internal staff group made up of both former Tales developers and staff from the Tekken and Soul Calibur series, and Innocence, which was developed by Alpha System. The studio remained as an independent company until 2003, when it was acquired by Bandai Namco and renamed Namco Tales Studio. In mid-2011, a financial report indicated that Namco Tales was in serious financial trouble, with its total debt of $21 million outweighing its total assets, as well as posting a loss for the previous financial year. The studio's absorption into its parent company was formally announced in November of that year. Until this point, the Tales series had been produced by Makoto Yoshizumi. After the absorption of Namco Tales, the position was taken over by Hideo Baba, who had served as a brand manager for the series. He had previously been the producer of the original version of Hearts. In early 2012, 80 former staff members from the studio were employed by Bandai Namco to work on future games in the Tales series. Terminology. Bandai Namco often use unique terminology when referring to the games of the Tales series. In 2007, Yoshizumi announced two classes of Tales games, Mothership titles, and Escort titles. Mothership essentially means main series, whereas Escort essentially means spin-off. One of the recurring differences between the two game types internally is that Escort titles don't supply inspiration for main entries in the series, but rather draw the most popular elements from them. The games are also frequently given what is called a characteristic genre name, which is essentially a short subtitle or phrase that outlines the game's overall theme. The main reason for this, as stated by Yoshizumi, was that the series was not seen as a role-playing series by the development team, but rather character-playing game, with the player learning about the game's characters and watching them grow rather than using them as avatars. The genre names are meant to distinguish them from other role-playing games. The terms, however, are largely removed from the English localized versions. There are also terms that are used in remakes or ports of games. R stands for remake, while F in Grace's F stood for future, in reference to the game's extra story content. Localization. Multiple Tales titles, the majority of which are spin-offs, have not been localized for the West or have only been released in North America. Two examples of the former case for entries in the main series are Rebirth and Innocence, while an example of the latter is Legendia. Speaking in 2013, Barbie explained that the main priority for localizations was for the main series rather than spin-offs. In addition to this, he stated that their localization team was limited and they needed to pick and choose which game to bring to the West. For its Western release, Eternia's name was changed to Destiny 2. This was due to a possible trademark conflict and the wish to exploit the popularity of Destiny. With Zestiria, Bandai Namco planned to attempt releasing the game in the West in the same year it was released in Japan. The deciding factor in this resolution was the delayed release of Xillia and its sequel and the reaction of Western fans to this. Fan localizations have also been created, such as for the original versions of Phantasia and Innocence. While the option of the Japanese voice tracks have been heavily requested for Western releases by fans, licensing issues have mostly prevented Bandai Namco from implementing it. Localization for mobile titles is also a low priority due to them being co-developed by Japan-based mobile developers. Reception and legacy. The series has generally sold well during its lifetime. The series' strongest sales base has been Japan. In 2007, sales distribution was 87% in Japan, 8% in North America, 3% in Europe and 2% in mainland Asia. The three best-selling titles of the series at the time were Symphonia, Destiny, Xillia and Destiny 2. The sales data did not include mobile and online games. The success of entries has also been linked with the consoles they are released on. Vesperia's release on the Xbox 360 caused the console to sell out for the first time in Japan, while Namco decided to release Vesperia on the PlayStation 3 due to the low sales prospects for next-gen consoles in their target audience. As of December 2013, the series has shipped 16 million units worldwide across 100 different countries. While keeping a lower profile in English-speaking regions, in Japan, it is regarded as one of the biggest role-playing video game series. 1UP.com's Jeremy Parish, speaking in 2001, referred to it as the third biggest RPG series in Japan behind Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. Gamasutra's Brandon Sheffield echoed these sentiments, stating that while the series doesn't have quite the cultural cash of Final Fantasy in the West or Dragon Quest in Japan, it's still a very popular brand worldwide. IGN's Anoop Gantiat additionally referred to it as the third biggest Japanese role-playing series in regards to sales. Multiple entries in the series, notably Destiny and Legendia, have been favorably compared with fighting games and brawlers, especially the Street Fighter series. Game trailers ranked the linear motion battle system, with particular reference to Graces, as one of the top 5 JRPG battle systems. In 2013, leading up to the release of Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, Barber called Symphonia the most successful title in the series in the West thus far, although the series' main target audience was still in Japan. According to Barber, the Japanese Tales player community is 70% men and 30% women, with women being more interested in the story and characters while men were drawn by the gameplay and combat. In an earlier interview, Barber commented that the team behind the series put a large amount of effort and development in keeping the series fresh while retaining the base elements across each installment. The positive reaction of gamers in the US to Symphonia influenced the way the various teams developed titles after that point. Speaking in 2014, production manager Dennis Lee said that, since Symphonia's release, the popularity of the series has grown, and in response Namco have focused on getting more entries out in Western territories. Much of their research about what titles to release or develop in the future revolves around direct conversation with Tales series fans at gaming conventions and special events. References. External links, Official Namco Tales website, Official Namco Tales website, Tales series on Facebook.